I worked for 3 years after high school until I decided I needed a college degree to advance any career I wanted. And so I had an opportunity. A friend told me about the Air Force Reserve. I walked onto base, and it was February 14th, 1984. And I raised my right hand, and I served passionately for the next 25 years. When I initially joined, I was a medic, and I served equivalent to an EMT in the civilian sector. During college, I worked as a EKG tech anytime I could find an opportunity to use that skill set to get me through college. My medical unit with the 440th was actually activated during Desert Storm. And I remember at the time I was in college at UW Oshkosh, and we got the call, and we had 72 hours to report back to the base with our bags packed. We were deployed to Frankfurt, Germany, and we flew in and out of the desert. So they brought us to Rhein-Main Air Base in Germany, where we had a hangar that was an operating unit on the flight line for triage, and we offloaded the planes in and out of the desert to Rhein-Main, and then they were sent to either Longstool or to another forwarding location before we could bring them to the States. And fortunately, the ground war at that time, I don't remember how many days it was, but we were able to wrap up our mission, and we were home within a little over, I think it was just under 6 months. We were a medical unit that, the one thing that stayed with me from that particular deployment was when that was the time Scud missiles were getting through, and we had the Scud busters, and we were all, for the first time, I think, seeing live on CNN what was happening. And one of our Scud missiles did get through to an American barracks, and we received all the casualties from that. And I think as a young medic, traditional reservist, working in a total force concept, but, side by side with our active duty people, to have that severe of a casualty come through, badly burned, you just naturally take all of that training that you went through and immediately responded to changing bandages, to treating some severe burn victims. You collaborate and you get the mission done. And I wouldn't say at all it was tough, because you were there with people that were supporting you. And at times, did you get homesick? Yes, I think that's a natural response, because you're away from your family and what you know in a common, environment. But at the other part, to be able to apply those skill sets that you spent years training on, and to know that you've been called on to actually now execute on that, was quite an honor. I got deployed as a captain, and again, my promotion came through while I was in the desert, so there must be something with the desert, because I came home as a major. But at that point, I deployed as an exec officer to a flying commander, and my job, working again in a hangar where we flew 24/7 sorties, that experience changed my worldview dramatically. And I say that because, again, even though I'm in a secure location, I'm highly trained, I'm surrounded by some incredibly talented pilots and support group personnel working on a flight line. The heat, the 120-degree heat, many people say it's a dry heat. It's still 120-degree heat. But working on a flight line, knowing that the mission is so critical to not only transporting personnel, but supplies. But I think the one impact you never prepare for is waiting for that air crew to transport the human remains, and we call them flying angels, and bringing them back. And when you get that experience, because I saw firsthand, and at this point I was a high school classroom teacher, so many of my students that were juniors and seniors in high school that are 18, 19, these young men and women that we were dropping off at the back of our C-130 for boots on the ground, whether in the Army or in the Marine Corps, you could see the fear in their eyes. And to know that some of them did not come back and they made the ultimate sacrifice will always stay with you. I took on the additional duty of protocol officer. And as a protocol officer, what that meant in the area of operation that we were working in is if a dignitary or somebody wanted to come out onto the flight line but needed to be driven to another location, I was the protocol officer as an additional duty. Working as a protocol officer, driving in an armored vehicle because I was off base. And now if you can picture being off base, you tend to rely on a lot of your intel if there's anything going on. This particular day, we didn't realize, but there was an anti-American protest going on, and they would surround your vehicle, but I had some strong Ravens with me, and it was just a matter of, there's a saying that you either, fight or flight. For us, it was flight. You do whatever you can. There's no rules of the road at that point. You drive over a medium, you just get out of the immediate area. And that only happened to me twice. And the other time was, unfortunately, the individuals that decided to stop at a stoplight on the road. They were ambushed from someone coming out of the bushes alongside the road, and all 4 of them were killed. And I knew that rules of operation and driving, and especially if I have somebody that I'm securing in the back of my vehicle, you didn't stop for any stoplights. You just got to your destination. It impacts your psychological process. And I did not come home with PTSD. I do understand, and I have many fellow friends that have suffered from that, because whether they're in the Marine Corps or they were actually shot or they came home with some traumatic injury, do have that as a result. I'm very blessed to say, no, I did not come home with any of that, but did it make me always a different person? And that's why I like to think that my worldview has changed from the standpoint that it's that unpredictable moment, and just being very careful about your surroundings at all times, whether now it's at home or in another country. It's just always being aware of your surroundings.